Hello and welcome back to the PHP 101 course. In this video we're going to continue our discussion on arrays, and I'm going to show you guys a different type of array called an associative array. So we could go back here to our arrays.php script, and at the top here I'm just going to make a comment, and I'm going to say these are indexed arrays. And then we're going to go down here to the bottom, and right before this closing tag, I'm going to create a new comment, and we're going to put associative arrays. These are an associative array is defined and used the exact same way as an indexed array, except for instead of this just incremented index of 0, 1, 2, and 3, we may have a more useful index that we want to use. So let's show you what that looks like. An associative array allows us to do something like this. I'm going to create a variable called person, and I'm going to set up an array like this. Okay, and then normally what I could do is put my name here like this, and that I would access that with the index of 0. But I may not know where something's going to be in an array, so what we can do is create an associative array, and I can do something like where I say first name, and then we use they call this the fat arrow, or so it's an equal sign and then a greater than sign like this. And what this is saying is that this is still an array, but instead of it being a 0 index, this will actually be the index here. They call this a key. Okay, so this is actually a key, and when we access this, we access it by just saying echo person, and just like before, we use open and close the square braces, but we say first name. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and concatenate on a break tag there, and we'll go here, and let's just go back to our scripts.arrays, and so you can see that it printed Curtis here, and that's because if you look at this array, you access the first name by doing Curtis. So let's add a few more things here. We could do a comma, and the way that you add more is you just add a comma, and then you go ahead and give it another key name here, so put quotes, and then say last name. Go ahead and do the arrow, which is equals greater than, and then I can just say my last name is Parham. The next thing that I want to do is do something like age. So currently I am 38 years old. So I can go ahead and copy this line now, and we can say, you know what, let's do something a little more interesting with this. Let's not copy that line. Let's say echo person first name, and then we're going to concatenate on a string, so we'll put some double quotes in here, and we'll put a space, and then we're going to concatenate on person last name, and then we'll concatenate on another space, and then we'll concatenate on is, and then we can say person age. Alright, and then we will concatenate on one more string, and we'll say years old, and then we'll do a break tag at the end there. So what this is going to do is echo out first name space last name space is, and then it's going to put the age, so we need another space there. So now if I go back, I can access all this stuff in this array. So let's do that again. And it says Curtis Parham is 38 years old. So imagine this was in a database and you had many different people. I'm just going to go ahead and copy all of this here. And instead of being person one, just person, I'm going to do a person 2. I'm going to change it to Tony, and I'll put an age of 29, which that's not true. It's not nice to tell how old my wife is. I'm going to say 29. So then we echo person 2 first name, last name, person 2 age, and then we'll go back and refresh the page again. And now it says Tony Parham is 29 years old. So if Curtis Parham's 38 years old, Tony Parham is 29 years old. So you can see how you access an array like this. So you can see how in the context of a person, an array can store a lot of different information about that person inside of one collection. And then we can pass this along to other things like functions or later loops or things like that, and you have access to all this different information about the person packaged up in one place. And that's a lot easier to deal with than, say, let's say we could do set individual variables. So we could say person 2 first name is equal to Tony. We could have said person 2 last name is equal to Parham, and we can continue on like that. But if we want to add something, and say later when we learn about functions, we'd have to pass all this stuff down as separate parameters. But it's a little more useful to package all of that up into one thing and call it person 2 and store that in memory and have all this packaged together. It's logical to put all this information together about this person. And that's why you would use an associative array over an indexed array, because later you might know something new about this person. So let's say I'm going to add a new thing to person 2, and all we have to do that is say person 2, and you can say job equals stay at home mom. Okay, so then if I go and var dump person 2, then we have this array, and now we can see that we can also access job like that. So if we echoed person 2 brackets job, if we would echo that, it would print out stay-at-home mom. Okay, so that's how you can build up data sets or lists, or in other languages, it could be a dictionary or something like that. But in PHP, this is an associative array, and it's associative because the values or the elements of the array are associated by the keys. These are keys instead of these are indexed. That's why this is an indexed array, because they're just numbers, oops, like that, and you access a list like this, and they're not identified by anything other than the index here. This sort of thing, I find myself using both of these quite often, but I would say associative arrays a little bit more often than indexed arrays. Indexed arrays are good if you're just going to build up a list and loop through them and do something with each element in order. But if you need to access random things out of this array at different times and not in order, the best thing to use is an associative array. The last thing I'm just going to cover real quick in this video is the third type of thing that you'll hear about with arrays is called multi-dimensional arrays. Multi-dimensional. I don't know if I spelled that right. I'm sure I did not. Arrays. And all this means is that an array can be more complex. So you know how I told you could store integers, and you can store strings and floats and different types, and even booleans and things like that as the element in an array? A multi-dimensional array is you can actually store multiple arrays within an array. So what we could do is say people, okay, is equal to, and I'm going to create an array, and I'm going to say husband. And what I'm going to pass along to that is person, and then I could say wife, and I'll pass person 2 along to that. Now this is technically a multi-dimensional array because the index of husband will return this thing is an entire array. So the way that I would access people is I would do it like this. So echo, so we would echo people, and then I would say I want to know about the husband, and I want to know the age of the husband. So the way that we do that is put another brace after that, and we say age. Okay. So the way you go through, and this can be as many layers deep as you need, but it's multi-dimensional. So you just keep adding another key or key here to dive deeper. So people husband will dive down into person, and then the age. This should print 38 to the screen if we refresh, and you see that it does. So one last thing is I just want to var dump that and show you what that looks like in a var dump. So I'm going to say people, refresh the page. Let me go ahead and add a break tag here, refresh. So now you can see there's two elements in this array. The first element will be husband, which is an array with 3 elements in it. And then if you look down here, the second element in the array is wife, which has 4 elements in it. So Tony, last name, age, and job. So this all stored in one big array called people that we set to a variable called people. So that is a multi-dimensional array. Don't let that confuse you too much. You'll know when you need to use a multi-dimensional array, but basically if you need to access something deep inside of a multi-dimensional array, you just keep stacking on these keys here. And one last thing is I'll show you a little trick here with the var dump. If you echo some pre-tags before and you echo the closing pre-tag right after that, what this does is it creates a little prettier version of the var dump to look at. It just organizes the code a little bit. So if I refresh now you can see instead of being in all one line like this, what it's done is it's kind of broke things down on a new line. So I can see there's an array, and the first element and second element are easy to get to because they are indented the same. And then I can dive into that and see, hey, the first name is a string, which is Curtis. The last name is a string, and that's Parham. So it gives you all sorts of information. So as you're debugging and programming your own stuff, you will use var dumps quite often. And if you have with a big multi-dimensional array or something, if you're having a hard time reading it in a single line, if you just put pre-tags before and after that, it will make your lives a lot easier. So I hope that helps. That's arrays. We've looked at indexed arrays, associative arrays, and multi-dimensional arrays. And guys, just study these things and you will find that you use these in programming, whether you're doing it in PHP, JavaScript, or any other programming language. Arrays are a very integral part of programming. So with that, guys, I will see you in the next video where we will start talking about loops.